Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. In advance of the November 4th election, we are going in-depth on the ballot questions. Question number 3 would expand prohibitions on gaming. This would essentially repeal the recently passed laws allowing casinos in the Commonwealth. To speak on the issues in favor of the ballot question and therefore against casinos in the Commonwealth, I'm talking with John Ribero, chairman of the Repeal the Casino Deal Committee. John Ribero, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let's start with you briefly introducing yourself to listeners.
Sure. I've been involved with this for about 4.5 years now. I live in Winthrop, which is right near Ribero in East Boston, where the casino was proposed for Suffolk Downs. And I'm a unpaid volunteer, and I've been leading this effort for just over 4 years now.
And getting right into the issue, why do you think Massachusetts should repeal the legislation allowing casinos?
Well, first off, the way this has been rolled out here in Massachusetts has just been a complete mess. You're seeing that the Gaming Commission just awarded a license to Everett, and weeks later, people are being indicted in connection with that license. It's just been one bad thing after another. But more broadly, as you look around the country, in nearly every state, casinos cause crime to go up, property values to go down, and they outpace small businesses and cause some of them to close because the small businesses just can't compete with the casinos. And that happens in nearly every single case, and it's just not something we should be bringing to our state.
And what do you say to the arguments that casinos will create jobs in construction and then at the casinos themselves?
Sure, we always acknowledge that there are going to be jobs that are going to be created, construction jobs which are temporary, some of the jobs obviously in the casino, but even those numbers have gone down since this was first brought up in Governor Deval Patrick's first term in office. He was claiming that it was going to create about 50,000 jobs. The committee that's been formed to oppose us has a name of they're looking to protect 10,000 jobs. So they've already lost and deflated their numbers down by about 80%. And what you see actually happening around the country is that casinos are closing. You're seeing 4 and 5 casinos close in Atlantic City. 1 in 4 people are going to be laid off. The casinos in Connecticut are laying people off and closing whole portions of their casinos down because people just aren't gambling as much, and the gambling revenue hasn't recovered from the recession as quickly as other industries.
Now, what about the people who say casinos create a lot of new revenue for towns and cities from the taxes? I guess that was given as the reason really to have them to begin with here.
Yeah, that's just a fallacy on its face. I mean, casinos don't create products or services. Really what they're doing is diverting revenue and money that's already being spent in the economy, and every single one of these casino proposals that are still standing is looking to bring in money from folks that are already here and spending money. And that there's no net new revenue that's going to come from this. In fact, the best studies on impact to the lottery, which we have the most successful lottery in the country, say that our lottery is going to see as much as a 20% hit in revenues. Now, some of the money that's coming back from casino gambling would be used for local aid, but still, despite that, you'd still see in nearly every single community about a 10% direct hit to local aid. So a place like Boston could lose between $15 and $18 million in local aid when the casinos get up and running.
Now, people always bring up that you have a lot of Massachusetts residents traveling to Connecticut and other states where they have casinos, and so we lose that revenue. What do you say to that argument?
Well, we do lose some of that revenue, but we don't have as much of the problems that are coming back to our state. And we're not, we can't keep all of the money, all the dollars from every other industry that goes on outside of our borders in our state. But really what happens is the costs associated with casino gambling, once they get up and running, are as much as 3 to 1. And you see that with, broken homes, drunken driving arrests and convictions and things that go on. Connecticut is also known now as the embezzlement capital of the country, and they've seen their rate of embezzlement go up 4 times as much as the rest of the country. These are all hidden costs that people don't account for when they talk about these numbers.
Now, when you talk about repealing a law that's in place, it seems like quite an uphill battle. What makes your group feel that they can make some strides on this?
Well, if people have been paying attention for the past 2+ years since the law has been in place, there have been a number of casino battles around the state. Not just in places where we've had referendums, but in places like Foxborough and Tewksbury and Millbury and West Springfield. And the town of Holyoke, in fact, elected and re-elected, I think, the youngest mayor in the country based on his opposition to casino gambling. And so in a lot of these places where we did have referendums, in Palmer and Milford and East Boston, we were outspent by almost as much as 100 to 1. And we were still able to defeat these casino proposals. The people are smart. Voters are smart, and they're paying attention. And the more they learn about casinos, the more they realize they don't want to have them, not only not in their backyard, but not in their state.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. We're talking about the ballot questions, and in particular question number 3, which would expand prohibitions on gaming, essentially repealing the recently passed laws allowing casinos in the Commonwealth. I'm talking with John Ribero, who is head of the movement to repeal the casino laws. John, when you talk about the social issues and the social effect of casinos, what types of evidence do you have that this can be dangerous for a community and in the culture of a community?
Yeah, I think this is the thing that people understand most readily. And you look at places like Detroit and Atlantic City and even some of the smaller places that people don't even hear of and think of as casino towns, but like there's a community, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, that, sure, they have some new playgrounds, but they also had to build an entire new courthouse to deal with all of the crime that sprouted up. That's the big industry that comes along with casino gambling. Former mayors of Ledyard, Connecticut, which is home to Foxwoods, talk about the drugs and the guns and the prostitution that follow and come along with casinos. In fact, the Mohegan Sun Casino recently hosted a forum on human trafficking because it's so prevalent in the casinos. They use it as a place to hide and to conduct these businesses out of, that they had to put on an entire forum to train some of their workers on how to recognize when that might be going on in their establishment. It's just one negative after another. And what the root of all of this and what ends up happening, and even the proponents will acknowledge this, that you're going to see a doubling of the incidence of pathological gambling. And those are people that go out and they lose everything. Now, it's a hidden component of this because it's a very small percentage of the population. But even if it's only 1% of the population in Massachusetts, you're talking about, between 60 and 70,000 people that we'll never hear of, but will lose everything to casinos once they come into our state.
Now, what would you say to the fact that there are cities and towns that have voted in favor of casinos and they're sort of into the process already on this?
Well, they are expecting huge windfalls in terms of the mitigation agreements, and people need to remember, mitigation is pretty much a dirty word. It means something bad is going to happen, and we're going to pay you to hopefully make up for it so you can deal with the problem once it's already there. And what I think some people are forgetting is that their entire regions are going to be impacted. And the people who live next door to Everett or to Springfield or Plainville haven't had a say and won't have a say on whether a casino is going to be in their area. And that's partly why I took this up. Being in Winthrop, I didn't have a say whether a casino was going to be sited in Suffolk Downs. But this gives all voters of Massachusetts the opportunity to have their voices heard, as it should be, something that's going to have such a deep impact on the character and culture of our state.
Now, what if what would you say to people who say that Massachusetts will just be left out because all the surrounding states will have this?
Well, I think this is one party we do want to be left out of. There's not one good thing that comes along with this. I mean, Pennsylvania, which is second only to Nevada now in casino revenues, has just seen their bond rating downgraded by Moody's because of in part because of their dependence on casino gambling. They were promised that real estate taxes would go down, but despite having all that casino revenue, the real estate taxes have continued to go up. And all of these problems that we've been talking about have happened and continue to happen and increase around the casino locations. So I think in the final analysis, people are going to be happy that we're not on that list.
Now, what would you say about the companies that have spent millions on this application process already?
Yeah, casino gambling hasn't been legal in this state ever. And it was passed a few years back. And even before this law was passed, we had been making plans and we're out in the media letting folks know that we were planning to bring this before the people and not just have it decided by the people in Beacon Hill. And what the SJC decided, for folks that aren't familiar, the Attorney General tried to keep us off the ballot and said that, our question was unconstitutional for the reason that you just brought up. But what the SJC said and kind of revalidated a basic tenet of our democracy here is that the laws can change, and the idea that casino gambling should remain legal forever just because it was passed one time just doesn't hold water. In fact, they said that the Attorney General, Martha Coakley's decision to try to keep us off the ballot was a curious departure from common sense, that she should, as the attorney for the people, should have sided with the people and allowed us to go forward and placed a barrier in front of the casino companies. Instead, she decided to side with them. So, they have no guarantee and should expect no guarantee that casino gambling would remain legal, even if we're unsuccessful this time around. When all the problems do crop up, if we're not successful, we'll be back again in a few years to eventually repeal this law.
And in about the minute we have left, any final thoughts you want to leave with listeners and voters?
Yes, I think it's very important that folks get out and vote on November 4th and vote yes on question 3 to stop this mess from happening. It's a mistake that we don't have to make, and all people need to do, they can certainly come to our website, repealthecasinodeal.org, but to verify and validate the things that I've been saying is people can do their own research on what's happened to casino communities around the country. Detroit and Atlantic City are prime examples of where we're headed if we don't repeal the law on November 4th.
I've been talking to John Ribero, chairman of Repeal the Casino Deal Committee, who has been speaking in favor of Question 3, which would repeal the casino law. John, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.